Welcome back, Dr. Eddie. It's so good to have you 2 weeks in a row. And I know you've got a great topic for today.
Well, thank you, Tammy. It's always good to be here. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. And we're going to start off with, and I'm going to start off with this disclaimer. If you are a couple or a betrayed partner that's new to discovery, 2 years or less, I want you to tune me out. Okay? This message is not for you. If your partner has not committed to doing the recovery work, this message is not for you. For the rest of you, I'm going to ask that you take what I'm about to say and understand that this is not a black and white issue. Okay? As I would sit and talk with each of you individually, I may make some adjustments in my thinking on this topic. Okay? Because there's a lot of gray that's mixed into the circumstances that you're facing. So I ask that you keep an open mind and examine all the aspects of your relationship based on what I'm going to talk about today, right? As you folks know, I've been doing this for a long time now. I've worked with countless couples who have really suffered, just devastating effects of sexual betrayal and problematic sexual behaviors. And there's something I've seen over and over again. Even when the betrayer does the hard work, even when there's transformation, years later, 3, 5, 15 plus years, I've seen 30 something years, right? The couple's still stuck. And the wounds are raw, and it seems like forgiveness is impossible. And so therefore the relationship seems is circling the same painful ground. So, but why is this happening? What do betrayed partners need in this situation besides knowing that their partner who betrayed them is evolving, they're transforming, right? What keeps couples, what even that gets some couples moving forward, even after time and even after recovery work? The husband transformed, he's sober, he's accountable, he's emotionally more present than ever, not perfect. He has his moments, he has his lapses. It's like I have mine when it comes to my emotional bandwidth, but still, his wife, still with all of that you see, his wife is guarded, she's angry, she's distant, arguments continue to erupt, sometimes daily. And it says the betrayal just happened last week instead of 7 years ago. So why does this occur? Because the betrayal trauma isn't just about the act of the infidelity or the pornography used. It's about profound relational injury. Okay, say that again. It's about profound relational injury. When betrayal happens, it shatters the foundation of the relationship, right? We know that, right? But here it is. This is something that's real critical. The trauma gets stored in the nervous system. Most people think, oh, the trauma is right here, just in my brain, it's my thoughts, it's my emotions. No, it's actually in your autonomic nervous system. What is the autonomic nervous system? You've heard me talk about this before. Those are one part of it. The parasympathetic is your nerve centers. That's what it is. It's the nerve endings. And the trauma gets put there. So it doesn't just live in your mind or your memory, it gets hardwired into your body. And then that body reacts to everything as though it feels unsafe. And many of you know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, how often do you go out in public and you go to a store and, you see these other women and all of a sudden you start to get, triggered by it. These women haven't done anything, right? Women really aren't threats. Let's say you're alone, but yet you're still triggered by it. And why? Because again, your autonomic nervous system has kicked into gear, right? So even when the harmful behavior stops, your body remembers the devastation of the discovery. And more often than not, fear takes root. The fear of being blindsided again, fear of opening up your heart only to have it crushed once more, fear of never truly feeling safe with the man who's standing in front of you. But the betrayed partner also experiences fear. There's a fear of, I will never be forgiven. The fear that nothing that they will ever do will be good enough to help her to feel safe. The fear of living for the rest of their relationship in this cycle because of his past mistakes. So this fear, which is on both sides, is one of the biggest reasons why couples get stuck years after betrayal. Okay? It silently works driving distance, it drives defensiveness, it drives disconnection, and it will keep those partners locked in this pain cycle. And when I ask the betrayed partners who are years post-betrayal, what do they truly want? The answers vary on the surface, but underneath their anger, underneath their sadness, underneath their pain, there are four different things that they long for that have always come up. One, they really want authentic emotional connection. They want a partner who can feel, not just think or problem solve, but truly connect. I say this all the time. A wife can't feel safe with a man who can't feel. And betrayal made her feel invisible, unwanted, unsafe. And although there's a strong chance that she felt that way even before discovery, there's a very strong chance that's happened, right? That he had just made her feel invisible for a long time. And that's why it's even more devastating. It's like, you don't pay attention to me. I'm here. But yet you're going to go and you're going to look at a screen and look at images that are there when I'm here for you. And that is crushing. Recovery means showing her consistently that she's seen, she's heard, and that she is desired. And men struggle to do that, especially men who are emotionally voided, men who are emotionally underdeveloped. But that doesn't mean they can't learn how to do that. Number two, consistent safety. Right? This is a absolute. True healing requires long-term, predictable emotional safety, not just sobriety. That's why we talk about the idea being sober is not enough. Yeah, you heard that back when I wrote the book, Why Men Struggle to Love. Right? Women want to know, can I put my heart out there and you won't drop it again? Right? But again, the fear makes this very difficult. Your fear says, don't you dare trust him. You know what happened last time. Don't you dare. His fear says, if I try to connect, she's going to reject me. So here we are. Both of us end up pulling away or arguing. But yet we both want the same thing. We want to reconnect. Number three, betrayed partner, right, wants a partner who leads in healing. Many women feel exhausted from carrying the weight of the relationship. And like I said, that was sometimes even before discovery. Right? They want their husband to initiate emotional conversation, to offer comfort when being asked, to take the lead in repairing what was broken. But fear, the fear that comes from those who betrayed, it creates a sense of avoidance. It says, I'm probably going to say the wrong thing. And then she's going to attack me. I think that's one thing I really try to work with them on, to say, you're not being attacked. What's happening? That's her fear that is talking. That's her fear that is acting. That's her tonality coming from her fear. You can't look at it as being attacked. You have to look at it as, oh, somebody who's hurting. And when the guys start to do that, when they begin that process, say, okay, that's what that is, things change. It becomes different. Because now you can stay there and you don't, it's not about you. All right. But what did he do? He stays silent, which only deepens her fear because nothing's really changed. And finally, a partner also wants someone who owns his current mistakes. I'm not talking about the mistakes of, acting out before. I mean, hopefully you've owned all of those and done that. I'm talking about your current, because, let's face it, when a man's in recovery, as I said before, he doesn't do everything perfectly, especially when it comes to that emotional connection and empathy, because it's not natural and he's learning and he's going to stumble along trying to emotionally bond. And occasionally, he's going to try to instead explain himself, or he's going to get defensive. And I know it's annoying to the betrayed partners who are expecting different. And you know what? And rightfully so. You do need different. There's no doubt about it. But what is really annoying when men don't own up to the mistake. That line of, that wasn't what I was trying to do. So it should be tossed from your vocabulary, folks. You should never utter that again. Your intentions are meaningless. It is the actions that you take or don't take. That's what's important. Nothing troubles a partner more than her husband not owning his mistake. So you know what? Man up and admit that you messed up. It's as simple as that. I messed up. And that is when I can tell Tammy, when women ask often, like, well, how do I know he's changed? And I say, you'll know he's changed when he starts to get defensiveness, he starts to explain, and all of a sudden he catches himself and says, well, no, sorry, no, that was wrong. I apologize, and corrects himself. That is how you will know, ooh, there are major changes that are happening and occurring. But here's the tragic truth. Fear convinces both partners that protecting themselves is safer than risking being vulnerable. Since I messed that up, let me say it one more time. Fear convinces both partners that protecting themselves is far safer than risking being vulnerable. But protection, when you try to protect yourself, you're keeping intimacy at bay. And without intimacy, no amount of time or sobriety is going to heal a marriage. So after years of doing this work, I've come to believe that couples need to pause and ask a hard question. What are we really trying to accomplish here? What is the end game? Are we trying to punish each other endlessly? Are we trying to relive the betrayal every day? Are we trying to stay locked in this survival mode? I don't think anybody wants that. I can't imagine anybody would want that. Or are we trying to co-create a brand new relationship, one that didn't exist before the betrayal? Because you know what? You go back and you look at relationships before discovery, and you start to really dig into them, they weren't that strong to begin with. And part of the reason is you're dealing with individuals who don't have a solid attachment style. Instead, they have an attachment wound. And because of that, they don't know how to bond properly. Here's what I tell therapists and coaches. Oh, here's what the therapists and coaches try to tell couples. What do we try to tell them? That the old marriage is dead. The day betrayal entered the relationship, it died. And you're not going to be able to revive that. is done. If you want a new relationship together, you have to build a new relationship from scratch with new rules, new safety, new intimacy. Okay? Many of these things you've heard before, but we're not doing it. You can't do it if fear remains in the driver's seat. If her fear is louder than her desire to connect, intimacy won't grow. If his fear keeps him from leading emotionally, safety won't return. Fear will always show up. It's part of the human conditioning, especially after trauma. But it can't run the show. Choosing connection over self-protection is terrifying. Yes, it's terrifying, but it's also necessary. Couples who make it out, who wind up getting through this pain, right? They don't do it because they waited long enough and that the pain just magically faded. That's not how it works. They get to the finish line because they learn to face the fear of being together and taking the risk of loving again. Even when every instinct, when your body is screaming, protect yourself, protect yourself. But that's what they do. They take the risk. The question isn't just what do you want? It's also what are you willing to risk to get there? Because rebuilding a relationship after betrayal isn't about waiting for fear to disappear. It's about walking through it hand in hand, calling each other out when you see the fear in the other person, asking them to take a chance, to take a risk. If your relationship feels stuck after betrayal, I want you to hear this. You're not broken, and your marriage is not doomed. But you cannot heal if fear keeps presenting itself and you allow it to stay front and center. Ask yourself and each other, what are we trying to accomplish? What is the end game here for us? Do we want to stay in this survival mode forever? Or are we going to risk vulnerability to create something new? Time doesn't heal betrayal. Fear doesn't protect you from pain. Only courage, connection, and the willingness to rebuild together can lead to true healing. Let me give you a quick example as I finish up here today. I saw a post I don't go on Facebook very often. I went on the other day to post the fact that we're having this webinar. And I saw a post there from a woman who was discussing how her husband had struggled with porn and had an affair. He'd done his work, been doing his work, and she saw the results. But 4 years later, she still couldn't bring herself to move toward him. And then she realized she was allowing fear. And what caught my attention was I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to talk about this. And this is what this is. That fear was driving her life. She could feel the anxiety and the trauma in her body. She really now just started. She always thought it was here in her mind. Now she realized, no, it's running through my entire body. So what did she start to work on? And she outlined this. One, noticing when the trauma and fear appeared and when it was active in her body. You have to be, that's number one. You have to notice. You have to be aware that, oh my gosh, I can feel this now. But then, like slowing everything down, she started the process of emotionally regulating herself. No, I'm not going to allow this trauma to take hold of me. Instead, I'm going to regulate herself. It did that through many different things. And that allowed her to start taking small risks. And when she saw those small risks, they reaped the rewards, she started taking more risks. And there was one thing she wrote, Tammy, that really stood out to me in that. And she wrote, when he said, "You are beautiful," I started to believe him instead of my own fear. Because before that, whenever he would say that, she would just brush him off. And now it was like, oh, thank you. I so appreciate that. That's what can happen. That's the difference of all of it. That's what I got for you today, Tammy.
Well, it was all fine until you got me all choked up at the end. So, uh, it's interesting because Scott and I did a webinar yesterday on the three P's of recovery: patience, persistence, and perseverance. And I see so many of the things that you're sharing that feed right back into those. It's like you're going to persistently confront the fear. You're going to be patient, like you talked about, slowing everything down, but also the persevering and then reaping the rewards of that. And I was thinking, because I was actually visualizing like a relationship that chooses to go, I'm going to be fearful, I'm going to protect myself, you
Yeah.
know, and I suspect, I don't know this for sure, but I suspect if you're so guarded, in this primary relationship, you're probably guarded in other areas too, and it's completely isolating. Like the trust factor will always be bridged. I love that you shared that story at the end, that that she had a realization and she was willing to do the work, scary as it can be, like, but I'm gonna try, I'm gonna see what happens. And she started seeing things moving in a positive direction, which was also what we were talking about yesterday. The more you see those little positive moments, you go, oh, okay. I think it's sometimes helpful because, I have a thing on my computer that says fear is false evidence appears real. And it's a good reminder to me to check in of like, well, am I really in danger? Like my brain is going, it's terrible, it's terrible. And I'm like, is it really terrible? If the absolute worst happens, can I have a plan? What would I do? Would I survive it? Yes. I mean, so some of those things of just getting into the reality of like, this is where you are now. And I get to choose, which is what you're saying with that example too, is like, I'm going to choose. But I think it's really important, like you said, call each other out. I think it's, for me, I have to call myself out too. Like it's okay for me to go, I need to talk to you about this and I'm really scared to do so. As soon as I say that, like, it neutralizes it because I
Right.
voiced it. And so yeah, supporting each other, calling each other out, but taking ownership and being vulnerable and saying, I'm scared to say this. That's how you can move towards each other. But
Right.
I just had this visual of these two people being completely like living in the same house and being completely disconnected, and how sad that is.
The idea is, again, when it comes to the fear, it's not like what I'm saying is, oh, don't be fearful.
No.
We're saying, but hold on to the fear and move forward, despite that fear. That's what we're talking about. And let me tell you why. Okay, because this kind of message is one you guys have heard me talk about over the last year several times. And the reason for it, and I've mentioned this before, is because it breaks my heart to watch these women continue to struggle. Their lives have been shattered, and I want you to get your life back. You deserve that. You deserve it. Whether he's in it or he's not in it, you deserve better. And so therefore, though, how do you do that? Well, guess what? I got to take ownership of this, and I have to try to take the actions necessary to try to make that happen. And I'm not minimizing the fact that it's difficult. I understand. It is, as I said several times, it's almost kind of crazy, like I'm gonna move back towards him after what he did. If that is way too much, if it was far too much, even after you confronted your fear and did all that, then you know what? Then maybe that's not the answer. Maybe the answer is to go in another direction. but at least you still get your life back. Because again, that's you, as I said, you deserve that. So that's why I keep bringing this up.
No,
So
I'm glad you did, and that staying stuck for 7 years you mentioned, I mean, like we hear people that, are living in that in between. They're not really in a relationship but they're not really separated, and I it takes courage, connection, and willingness to rebuild together that can lead to true healing. But lots. I'm going to hold because there's questions and we run out of time. So, what do you do if your partner is adamant about not addressing their fear? And I think that's about a betrayed partner, but I'm not 100% sure.
yeah, but I think it probably is too. Again, like adamant, that means I'm assuming that you sat and you've had conversations about the fear and why they won't move. And if you haven't, that's what I think needs to be done. To say, you know what? Again, the question, what is the end game here? What are we trying to ultimately accomplish? Are you looking at me and seeing something different? And if you are, okay, then what are those fears that are still keeping you there? Because maybe I can help you. What you want to do, you don't want to sit there and wag your finger in her face. Instead, it's like, I want to help. I want to assist. One of my obligations as someone who's betrayed is to do everything to make you feel safe moving along, moving forward. And this will help to make you feel safe by understanding. And maybe, having her listen to this to hear the idea that, and again, it's not a novel concept, it's been around for 20 years, that the trauma, it takes hold of the body. It stays here. And that's why it's got to be released to give that sense of relief from it. So that's where I would go. I'd go and say, let's just sit and have a dialogue about this, about us. Where are we going? What are we trying to accomplish? What can we do for each other to try to make that happen?
I was thinking the same thing. And what are we each willing to do to accomplish that goal? Because you've got a mutual goal agreed upon. So what do we each need to and want to and be willing to do in order to achieve that?
Right, and she may be seeing things in you still that she's not happy with. And you have to be, again, very open to hearing that, even if you feel like, you know what, she's wrong. That is not, no, it's her perception. And therefore, your job is to change that perception, not to change her mind that her perception's wrong, but instead change the perception. All right, you know what? I feel like I've done this, but I have to exhibit it more. I have to put it out there. Guys have this tendency, I see a lot, in, ladies aren't going to be shocked, under communicating. You need to over communicate things. You need to be able to tell them and express to them what you've been doing, what's been going on in your world, what's happening, how are you doing emotionally, mentally? Are you struggling in any way? If everything's wonderful, great, but what's the other pressures in your mind that you have to kind of keep at bay so that you don't go there and struggle? Over communicate. And that's something where men really, they fall flat.
So I won't share the specifics, but I subbed in on the betrayed partner drop-in group today, and there was a partner who's doing really well. Her addict partner is doing really well, but she was sharing the examples of he basically over communicates, like like even navigating into the space she's in. Like, I'm coming into the room just so
Oh,
that she's not. I mean, like,
that's,
no, seriously,
all
I
right.
was
I mean,
just like,
that's good. I
I
mean,
know it works for them, and I was just like,
that works.
fantastic, yeah. I was like, how much better to over communicate,
Oh,
than to like not. So I love
oh.
that you were sharing that.
Well, I mean, my wife will tell you I over communicate all the time. I have for decades. And it helps. I think it helps. I think there's times when she's like, okay, I think I've had enough information. Okay.
No, I'm with you. I think part of it is we share a birthday on the same date,
Yeah,
and I was like, I think it may be part of the
maybe that's
whatever. Yeah.
it.
So anyway, okay. But trade partner here, the continued theme that keeps repeating itself in the 3 years that I've been in this process of healing is being able to feel your feelings in the physical body. Where do you feel it in your body? What are the physical sensations that you're experiencing when you're scared, triggered, anxious, angry? How does it show up physically?
That's a wonderful question. That's a one. Now, it could be different for different people. It could appear in different places at different times. So therefore, what there may be is a tightening in the chest. There could be up here in the neck in this area. Could be the racing of the heart. It could be that your saliva, you can't produce any. There's many things that could be a tingling or numbing in your fingers. It could be a restlessness that you have. There's just many things that happen. But the reason that you don't identify it sometimes, or we struggle to identify this, is because we don't just sit, be still, breathe. Oh my gosh. And your gut, right? The gut. Oh, I can feel something that's there. I can feel the discomfort. We're overstimulated by things that we're not paying attention to what's going on with the body. That's why just taking the time to be still, focus on your breathing, and you're going to see where it all of a sudden it starts to show up for you.
Well, and as you work through it, yeah, because I've witnessed, partners who everything would get stuck here, like they didn't even let themselves feel, like almost like they didn't have a voice in things. And as they started to do the work, they would get a stomach ache because like they
Yeah,
were starting to feel things that they hadn't felt. So paying, yes, it's really doing the body scan of where do I feel? I know exactly where, things happen for me. And as soon as my gut starts to clench, I go, need to pay attention where my shoulders, but
yeah,
but I had to practice that because I was oblivious to all of that too.
right.
I wasn't trained in it. It was like I wasn't trying to ignore it. I just didn't know how. So
No, that's true.
yeah,
Um, if the body keeps score, the book,
yes.
that'd be a good place to go and look at that and to learn more.
The somatic work sounds like the book The Body Keeps the Score, like perfect lead in. Is this applicable to this? Apparently,
Yes,
yes. I'm
yep.
in recovery from many issues, and yet betrayal is new and devastating for me. Trying to apply this principles to SA too.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry that you're new to betrayal, that craft your world, and it's gonna take that time to heal. But yes, this is definitely, you're right. Somatic work, it is about understanding the body, the role it plays. We tell people all the time, you must listen. What is your mind, your body, and your soul telling you? Because it says so many things. And this is especially important for those men who are emotionally undeveloped because they've never listened to any of it. They've never stopped to slow down to do it. And now when they learn how to do this, it's like all of a sudden you see their anxiety they're able to start to manage it and control it better. So yes, it is through that book, and I would be going in and looking at the different techniques that they have to try to use that work to continue as you go through this new chapter of your life.
And please lean in. We have so many, like I've subbed in on the trade partner drop-in group today. We have so many resources that you can connect with. I had put earlier, and I'll put it in again in case you joined later, but Dr. Eddie's doing, Inner Child for Betrayed Partners, a special webinar. I will put the link in for that. And we've done webinars on journaling, just getting it out of your body and onto a piece of paper so that it's not in your mind and it's not in your body. I mean, there's so many things that you can do. So find what works for you because this may work for you and that may not. And so find the things that are helping support you on this path.
So sometimes, I mean, if you start looking at that too, Tammy, it's like going back, and I know it's hard to find the energy, it's hard to find, the motivation, but go back to the gym or go to the
Hmm.
gym. If you haven't been to the gym, start going several times a week just to go and do that workout, use that intensity, get it out there. Get your body, you know, moving, and that's going to help a great deal too.
Well, actually, EMDR, which is a trauma, processing thing, came from walking because it's the bilateral movement. So, I mean, going for a walk, and being intentional. When I'm out walking, I try to be intentional. I'm paying attention to what I see. I'm not just stuck in my head and having passed a mile without even knowing where I am. So,
Uh,
so
you
those things
remind
help.
me, you remind me of a wife, a client of a wife who that was one of the key things she did. She walked every day. She walked in the morning and she walked in the afternoon. And that helped her dramatically to be, and she said there were times she had to stop because she could feel everything happening. And then she took her breath, looked at it, where is it? Kept going.
Yeah.
And that she contributed that a lot to her healing along the way.
Yeah. I being outside and walking are things that help me too. So I'm the betrayer, and my wife continues to struggle with so many triggers, as you say. What are some specific action steps I can take to help her heal? My sobriety is in check, by the way.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're sober. I think, well, if you're seeing her being that she's struggling with so many triggers, I think one, first and foremost, is I'm almost trying to be proactive in trying to keep maybe some of those triggers at bay. All right, like for example, if you're watching television, there's certain commercials and things that pop up. You know what? Maybe we need to turn TV off. And maybe instead, let's go, we're gonna play games, we're gonna read, we're gonna do things like that. But be very alert to what's going on. Talk to her about her triggers. Talk to her about, about well, what's going on with them. In what way does it impact her? What does she feel? What does she think? What's her body saying to her there? Um, so again, be more proactive and have the conversations, the dialogue, and let her know, I want to assist you when you're being triggered. Not like many partners, betray partners think that, oh, if I get triggered, he wants to run as far away from me as possible, and that's what many people do. And instead, you need to run toward her. All right. No, here we are. We're talking about walking into the fire. You have to walk, you have to run toward her while she's there. So again, I would just try to be more proactive and have those dialogues. This way, again, what it also does, it communicates, hey, I want to assist. I want to invest in your pain to help take it away.
And I would have those conversations not in the moment. Like,
No.
yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is like when there isn't a trigger saying, this is happening. I see those happening and I don't know what to do that would be helpful. I would really like your input of, have the conversation, but identifying a time when you guys are both well rested, well fed, all of those things, and say, can we have a conversation about this? Because, this feels like a sticking point and I want to step in, but I don't know what to do. That's a vulnerable place for you, but also hopefully that is something that your partner sees as this is different and in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the next question is, what does it look like for the betrayer to call out his spouse? I might have difficulty doing that in a way that would be well received. Thank you for asking. That's a
That
great
is,
question.
that is a great question. Okay, so what do I mean? And maybe calling her out is the wrong.
It's a little, yeah.
Yeah, I probably should have done that. I mean, I could see for those who've been betrayed to call out the betrayer.
Hmm.
Okay, so maybe not call her out, but I think again, let's go back to the tool that you have that is the most powerful of all, and that's curiosity. Okay, tell me what is going on right now. I can see that you are extremely upset. One, what was it that led to this happening? Okay, what type of trigger was it? How is it impacting you physically? How do you think this is? I don't know. Can we sit and breathe together for a little while so that maybe we can figure out what's going on? So that's what we want. Use your curiosity to kind of, again, not call her out, but to address the pain and the fear that she's going through.
I love that, and I think curiosity is yes. I'm seeing this. Is that accurate? I mean, like having the dialogue of feedback. It looks like you're upset or angry or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Is that accurate? Like keep asking for feedback. Be curious about what you're seeing and hearing, and
right.
and that's another one of those like when you like having permission. Like I think it's like do there can be things of like if we've had a discussion about it, is it okay if I'm wondering if you're experiencing fear right now? If I say that, is that going to feel confrontational, or is that going to give us the moment to think it through? So having those conversations when you're not in the heat of things, you
Yeah.
often can. You're smart people, get a plan. Like we're problem solving together, because like you said, Dr. Eddie, what is the goal? If the goal is we want to stay far apart forever, you know okay, but if we're looking to move closer to each other, how can we work on this?
Hmm. Right.
Any thought on the use of psychedelic therapy to help with the betrayal trauma?
Oh, that's another really good question. Okay, psychedelic therapy. I mean, back in 1960s, there was some use of that. In probably the last, what, 5 years, 7 years, it started to make a comeback. Again, it's that big of the segment of therapy that's out there. Um, I have never had a client who's used it, so I don't have any firsthand experiences. I will say this: this is I'm not saying no one. I'm not saying you shouldn't try it. I'm just saying this is my concern. We're trying to get rid of, or not get rid of. We're trying to reduce the intensity of the trauma. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to release that from the body. Do psychedelics mask what that trauma is and the symptoms of it? And so therefore, oh, I feel really calm right now. I feel really good. But yet it's still there. And what happens after we're done? Are you back to the same way you were before? So I don't know. I'm, I probably shouldn't even be addressing it at all because of my ignorance when it comes to this. But the little bit that I do know, and again, maybe if there was someone who, if there's a therapist online who know about this stuff, please jump in and share with us. Love to know what that is. Um, but yeah, I would just investigate it to the fullest extent and then make that call whether you think it might be something to work it on.
I actually have done some research. I've not done personal. That is not something that I'm going to choose to explore. But I know enough people, and I have worked with enough therapists that it would be something that if there's a stuck, this wouldn't be the first thing to do. Like they would really need to get to know you. So this is not like you go for the first session and we're going
Yeah,
to go do all of this stuff. So it is a process, and a, if there's some presenting something, it can help get unstuck. There are some things that can come to light that can then be processed in a different way, but it doesn't
ah,
magically fix it.
okay,
But there is some really good research out there if well done by qualified people. So here are all of those caveats, like really be specific. Don't just run off and go do this.
mm,
But that, if there's something that you're experiencing that it can help get to something that might not have gotten to otherwise. So it's one option. And but again, with a whole bunch of caution around it, make sure you're finding qualified people who are trained in this area. Like that's the other thing. And there are CSAT
yeah,
trained therapists who, are doing good work with that. So So to me, it's like, even though like I'm really, I don't take, I have surgery and I don't take the good meds, like I'm really careful about things. This is something that I think really deserves being explored to see if it could be beneficial. But do your research, like Dr. Eddie said, do your personal research to make sure, and have clear expectations about what you're looking to address and what the outcome would be.
Yep, exactly. Good stuff. Thanks for sharing that, Tammy.
So, Dr. Eddie, you apparently introduced this person to the How We Feel app, and it's a great tool. I'm
Right,
not,
it is. Basically, what it does is you go in there and you can put in what your mood is. And basically, what it'll do, it'll sit there and it kind of explains it more to you. And it brings up different pictures about things and it tracks where you are. So you can keep, running kind of, you can figure out is my mood changing? Am I shifting in that? So it is. I like it. I think it's a pretty good tool for people.
I've not heard that one. So, um, as a betrayed partner, I have wanted my husband to learn to listen and validate me, which would equal connection. He thinks he needs to share more, which may be needed, but because he's so self-absorbed and I've been ignored, I need him to initiate conversation with me and be a safe person for me to share with. Hearing by him hearing me, I would feel safe and closer to him. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I agree with you 100%. Everything that you're saying there is that part of when we talk about a man who does the work. The work isn't just, oh, I'm no longer doing the bad behavior I was doing. It is that I become someone who does initiate conversation. I've seen what's going on here with him. The question, why doesn't he initiate? He doesn't initiate most likely because of his own fears. Or in certain cases, it's like this sense of, I don't know what to say. Well, you know what? If you don't know what to say, then what you're saying to me is that you're just being lazy and self-centered. That's what that's about. You're being lazy and self-centered because you know what? You should be thinking about things that you could be talking about. You should be investigating. Again, we go back to the curiosity aspect of it. So I think for him to explore with his therapist, if he's still using a therapist, to understand more about why is he having that problem of wanting to talk again about him explaining about things, like you said, it's more about him versus probing, asking the questions, getting data from you so that he can stay on that subject. And that's where I'd be a need. So again, maybe you even get in with his therapist and the two of you talk about it and say, this is a big problem. It's something we need to address. And can you work with him on it? So that's where I would go. But you're right. Everything you're talking about is this should be the basics of what should be happening now here. And again, most likely he's emotionally underdeveloped, doesn't really know how to do it. And he thinks, oh, if by me sitting here and sharing with you and going on and talking, that, oh, we're connecting. He doesn't understand and he needs to be instructed.
Yeah, and I say this to partners a lot too, is like you need to be very specific, and sometimes they are, and there's it still goes through. So I love that you said work with your qualified therapist to help you go in, because if he's going like, well, I am, I'm talking to her or talking
Right.
at her all the time, whatever. So
That's wonderful. You just said, I'm talking at her. That's what he's doing, probably.
okay, so then the next one, oh wait, somebody said, as somebody speaking as someone who has seen this use, so talking about the psychedelics, I've it is a slippery slope, as I have seen some folks slip into psychosis. Again, like
Yeah,
abundant amount of research. Make sure you've got qualified people
right.
that are doing any of it. It would not be the first thing to go do.
Yeah, and I also think that if you're doing with someone who's qualified, has training, is certified to be able to distribute that type of medication, that the risk of something like that happening
Yes.
is not high. But yes, that is something that I've read in the past that as one of the negative consequences.
Yes. So abundance of caution. Okay. As a betrayer, when the wave of failure, that's a great phrase, the wave of failure comes on quickly and become overwhelmed with your shame shadows as you try to convince that you are not good enough and that your efforts seem to fall short and ultimately fail, what steps would you suggest to immediately stop falling into the shame cycle leading to isolation?
First and foremost, Michael, okay, there are things you could do right then, but see, you have to be working on this when you're not in the trenches, right? To understand when that comes at me, no, I'm not going there. And how do I convince myself, okay, that I'm not a failure? How do I convince myself that I should allow it, that I'm not good enough? I look at the body of work that I've done and say, look where I was and where I am. Now, this isn't something you're telling your partner. This is for you, okay? I have changed. I've evolved. I am different. Okay. Am I perfect? No, I'm not, but I am different. I'm in a better place than I was before. And that is something you need to be talking through with yourself on a regular basis. Even perhaps to go back to the journaling and journal about, how much better I've gotten. When you're in the trenches, and all of a sudden you start to feel this wave come on, like, oh my gosh, you go, stop. My number one rule to recovery, slow everything down. Take that breath. No, that's not the type of individual I am. She's seeing something right now that's reminding her of where I was before. Okay, let me address that. Let me address her concerns. Stay focused on her. What is her pain point? Stay focused on that pain point, not your pain point, what you're feeling. So again, no, I'm not going there. What is her pain point? What's going on? Tell me more. Give me some more information about that. Have her talk more about it. And again, yeah, it might be a lot of criticism that's coming, but still, okay, well, I'm not like that in many ways. All right. So where am I falling short? Because I know I've made improvement. Where am I falling short? But again, you can't wait till you're in the trenches to do that. You have to start doing it every day on a regular basis so that you start to build a more positive mindset for yourself.
And I was thinking, Dr. Eddie just said, when you're focused on how I'm failing and all of this and my shame voices, guess you're thinking only of you. And so when he's going like, pay attention to your partner, that's great. And I'm a person that likes to reframe things in a positive way. So rather than failing, I look for opportunities for improvement,
Hmm.
and that to me helps because if I'm failing, honestly, I will, I kind of, but if I'm going like, well, there's opportunities for improvement, that gives me like a positive goal to look for. I mean, it sounds stupid, but honestly, I know that works for me. If if shifting, like, I don't have to look at it as, oh, I'm so horrible, but I have opportunities for growth and change, and I'm willing to look at how I can get that. That can be a useful, place to go to.
All right, let's run through these last two because I do want to get to that last question.
Okay,
But
so the
for
are and having this is an easy one, and having these conversations aren't always going to feel comfortable, probably never going to feel comfortable, but there may be anger, but that isn't going to kill me.
all right, so he's been listening
Agreed.
to me, right?
What are your thoughts on antidepressants or anti-anxiety meds for the addict or
I
betrayed
I
partner?
think I think antidepressants for the betrayer or the betrayed partner are fine if we find that doing the conventional therapy just even we can't get through because there's just too much anxiety, too much fear for a short period of time to do that. It's like giving an edge for it. Anti-anxiety meds I tend to want my clients to stay away from them, but again, I want them to go to a psychiatrist to get prescribed. Let the psychiatrist look at it versus me doing it. Because the thing about antidepressants is they're non-addictive, so that's why I lean that way. But again, if we're going to do this, really like them to get in front of a psychiatrist to do the evaluation and make that determination.
one that understands addiction as well and has the whole scope of things.
Yeah.
I'm the unfaithful partner. I've had been in recovery a little over 3 years. It has not been good recovery the whole time, and I have made many mistakes and caused additional harm. My wife, who is incredibly loving, patient, kind, and generous human being, has not been willing to hear amends from me until recently, and I will be doing amends with her very soon. Do you have any suggestions? And also, in your view, what is the purpose and best format for amends?
Well, the purpose of amends is there's two things. One, I understand the depth of the pain that I put you through. Okay. I see what my actions have done to you. And moving forward, these are the commitments that I make to make sure that you are safe moving on. You really should be doing it with your therapist. I do not recommend you sit and try to do amends on your own with this because, again, a lot of times what will happen when people are writing these, it becomes more about them than it does the partner. It's more about, oh, I feel awful about what I've done and I can't believe how much I hurt. And that's not what amends are about. So, and Tammy just put in, what did you say, steps 8 and 9?
Steps 8 and 9 in the 12-step program are all about making amends. So,
Right.
that will be super helpful. And then
Right.
working with your sponsor or therapist.
Yeah, don't do it on your own.
No, no, you won't do it right.
Right.
We just don't. My partner, who had an affair 10 years ago, has been a secret porn user for our whole relationship. He says these things were mistakes. Seems like minimizing to me. Are these truly mistakes?
No, I don't think they're mistakes. I think again, why you go back to the why question. I know we're running out of time here. The why question. Why have you been engaged in with using pornography for all this time? And again, you're going to find that it was a distraction from emotional discomfort and emotional distress that he had. So therefore, basically, anything that we do when it comes from an addictive standpoint, it is used as a coping strategy. So it's not, it's a mistake in the fact that he picked the wrong coping strategy to try instead of taking care of his pain. All right. But you're right. I think it is minimizing. I would look at it as saying minimizing too. Instead, I would be asking him, why did you do it? If he says to you, I don't know, then tell him, you know what, you need to start to look at that and do some inner child work.
And I'm going to put there's a work group for partners on healthy boundaries. This to me could be useful
Oh,
in
yeah.
identifying what you need to do
Good
for
one.
yourself to identify your boundaries around the minimizing. And
Right. And don't forget our workshop that we're going to
I
be doing
just
on
put it
the
in there again.
22nd. Okay.
922, right?
Yeah,
Did I
yeah,
say-
yep.
Okay.
September 22nd for
Yeah,
Betrayed
yeah. So
Partners.
yeah, and it does
How,
require registration. So yeah,
right, how inner child work could help you moving forward with all of
as
that.
a partner. So we would love to have you join us.
You get a
Okay, but
week
we'll
off
see you.
next week. You get three
Yes.
weeks off from me. I'll be
No,
back
but
next
I've got a
month.
special edition webinar, so keep coming back.
There you
Bye,
go.
everyone. Thanks, Dr. Eddie.
Bye.